didn't help the case at all. Well, there was the alternative, which we offered on the side of the opposition. It was a rule which was way more realistic in its conception of how human beings operated and how human beings felt. And as a result, it was on the outside which reflected the complexities and nuances of human experiences. Why exactly was this the case? Because we realized that people weren't innately sexist or homophobic, and these came in varying shades of degrees. So Eminem might sing about his sexist lyrics in one song, but he might have pro-woman tendencies at his concerts and uphold feminist rights, for instance. And it was